We have prepared a YouTube video exploring the field of parental modeling and its influence on our lives and relationships. In this project, we conducted interviews with students from our university to better understand how the way we were raised shapes the way we interact in romantic relationships. You may wonder, why some people see fighting as normal in relationships while others avoid discussions? Why do some struggle with emotions while others shut down? And why do we reject centered gender roles only to repeat them later? Psychologists have studied this for decades, and they came to the conclusion that we learn how relationships work even before we experience them. It is caused by the fact that we learn how to communicate, argue, and love by watching our parents. We call this process parental modeling. But why does this happen? Albert Bandura, in his social learning theory, found that we learn not only through personal experience, but also by watching others, especially authority figures like our parents. In talking about arguments, emotional security theory by Patrick Davies and Mark Cummings show that children that are exposed to high parental conflict can develop emotional insecurity, which can make them more likely to expect or tolerate fighting in their own future relationships. The parenting style in which caregivers raise their children also plays a huge role in the child's development and their relationships in the future. Diana Baumritt, in her parenting styles theory, explains how strict, authoritarian parents often raise children who struggle with emotions and relationships. Last but not least, the gender roles. Gender schema theory, developed by Martin and Halverson, suggests that children watch their parents' roles and behaviors and learn what it means to be a man or a woman. But does science match reality? We formed questions out of those four statements and asked them to the public. Let's see what they had to say.
Yes, I do believe that. I also think that the children may apply this behavior to their friends at schools or preschools.
I think so, yes, I agree.
I have seen such things. I do believe it can apply to real life. For instance, when children may adapt this behavior onto their friends and later on in relationships because of the role models of the parents which they observed in childhood.
I didn't think so. I think generally just I saw if the parents are acting in some way different that they should, the child will think that it's normal. Like just in general, I think it will apply to that as well. Yeah.
Okay, I think the same. I don't know what I can say more because my friend said I think enough, but I actually agree, and it's like common, I think, in relationships. Yeah.
I mean, I think the cycle breaks when either the parents stop doing that or the child later in life learns that it's not normal.
No, I think we can stop it, like the child or the parents, and I think it's important to see the problem, and if we can see that, we can do something with that.
Yes, I do believe that, but it's also like arguing is also a part of relationships, so I wouldn't say it's really bad influence, but like a child needs to know that it's a part of life. But yes, it definitely can influence how they see relationships in the future.
Yeah, I think I will also agree with that, but it's important, to show also the dealing part, with the argument or with something misunderstood with the relationship or anything. So basically, if the children see that the parents discuss the matter, maybe talk about when something is wrong, I think it's really beneficial for children because they then will see in the world that actually, having argument with people, it's normal. So you need to know how to deal with that and maybe how to discuss that more than, yell at each other. So I would say it could be beneficial, but at some point you need to find the middle point in this area. Yeah.
Okay. I think I could agree with that. I don't want to get into my trauma, but Yeah, most of my friends have a pretty similar experience. So, yeah.
Okay, and what about you?
I would say definitely yes. Parental figures are obviously a crucial part in a child's development, and if a child sees that parents keep fighting next to them, they think it's an integral part of having a quote-unquote good relationship with parents, which is paradoxal, a whole paradox in itself, and I don't think parents should argue next to children. Obviously, small quarrels are normal, but full-on fighting is not for children to see.
I mean, it depends on the type of fight, because if it's like shouting at each other and calling each other's names, then of course it'll have a negative effect on the child. But when it's just explaining to each other your boundaries, it's while being calm, it can somewhat teach a child how you should resolve some issues in a relationship, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely say so too. I think that it really depends on the argument. If the two adults, like in this case the parents, if they can properly de-escalate the situation, it can teach a valuable lesson to the child that while arguing isn't necessarily the greatest thing, obviously it can have some psychological damages. It can also show the child that, hey, just because you're arguing doesn't mean it can go aggressive. You can teach the child how to manage an argument in a proper way.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, I do. Honestly, I've noticed that from my parents' experience, actually, whenever they tell me about the way they were raised. And for example, in my mom's case, it happens so that she doesn't like talking about anything that's like related to anything emotionally challenging. And for example, like she can say that she's happy or that she likes something, but not really that she's struggling, for example, or that, I don't know, she can't really admit that she was hurt, like really, really badly hurt. Whenever we talk about something deeper, it usually comes out from her mouth like, oh well, but like it's part of the life, you know, like it doesn't, it's how it works for someone. Some people have it like that, and yeah, that's...
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because I know many people who had strict parents and it turned out, I don't want to call them weird, but definitely with some issues. And they're not my friends, but I know them. And I know that they were always limited during childhood and couldn't really express themselves as easily as everyone else because they had to kind of always look out for what they say and what they do. So I think that it definitely affects them. There are some people who turn out well, who kind of rose to the challenge and overcame that, but I think that it kind of affects most of the children who are raised like that, so yeah.
Yes, I do.
Can you elaborate?
I think that when you are raised by strict parents, you don't really have the ability to, for example, confess your feelings to them a lot of the time because the strict upraising kind of creates this barrier that can be emotional, and therefore later in the future they might also have this mechanism not to maybe trust people and just it's harder for them.
Yes, it kind of depends, because some people break the pattern because they see that it's not how it's honestly supposed to be and they try to work on that, but some people don't even have that thought, and they were raised to being like that because they haven't experienced many emotions when they were young, because parents didn't give them much of that, and they couldn't really learn how to do that in the most important years of our lives, when we learn how to like show emotions and how to feel them honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think it correlates because first, your family, you will still have the same relationship as your childhood, it's hard to get over this barrier and sort of try to make up for the lost connection in your childhood. And same with friends, because you learn this sort of behavior from your family, and then when you grow up, it mirrors what you've experienced.
I think that it's kind of funny how they're more prepared for life because they kind of had to fight for themselves ever since they were children, but it also affects their relationship. So I think they do better in high-stress situations, they know what to do, and they're kind of more prepared for aggression that comes towards them from other people that they don't even know. But they definitely, they have to be more sneaky. They probably lie better, and it might not be good for relationships, especially romantic relationships. And if they raise their own children, that might be an issue too, to kind of build like a better relationship with their children. If they grew up in that kind of environment and they decided to stick with it and kind of think that it's just the way it goes. I think that's what it is.
Yes, I do. I think parents have a strong influence on children and their behavior and how they perceive the world.
Yeah, I guess I think like a traditional relationship between the parents can teach kids a little bit of a respectful situation for both genders. Depends what the parents are, but yeah, I think traditional gender roles kind of make it simple for the kids.
I think it really depends. It depends what do you mean by saying traditional. I mean, by that I mean that there's different dynamics in standard father and mother relationship, and it depends from the perspective of the child if the father is more like a dominant figure in that household or mother. So for me it was always that my father taught me the respect for my mother and so respect for women, and vice versa. My mother taught me respect for men and respect for my father. So I wouldn't say that it's always the same point that it teaches acceptance of inequality. I think it really depends on the dynamic that is in the household.
Well, I think parents still have a stronger influence than media, but I think media can also influence children in many different ways. So I think I would probably say 70-30 as a ratio. 70 is obviously the parents and 30 is the media.
Yeah, definitely. For sure different being brought up like as a girl than it is being brought up as a boy. Especially in like a traditionalized home where the father is like a big figure and a girl is a feminine mother figure. So yeah.
Okay, and do you think that boys and girls are affected differently by seeing traditional gender roles?
I think boys might be affected more because it's in like a traditional household, in traditional relationship between parents, it's more often that the father is like the figure that's dominating, and that shows that you need to be more respectful towards your father. But for girls, I don't know really, it's hard for me to say, but for boys, yeah, for boys I would see that.
Many students at our university expressed strong agreement with the idea that childhood experiences, especially those observed within the family, have a lasting impact on how people approach relationships. The reflections, supported with several major psychological theorists, suggest that we often learn how to love, argue, and express emotion by watching a pair. For instance, students agreed that seeing one parent dominate the other can normalize power imbalance in relationships. This supports Albert Bandura's social learning theory. Likewise, frequent arguments between parents made many students feel insecure growing up, and some shared that it shaped how they now handle conflicts, either avoiding it or expecting it as a part of love. This reflects emotional security theory. Strict parenting also came up often. Students who experienced this said that they had difficulty expressing emotions or making decisions independently, echoing Diana Bombritt's findings on authoritarian parenting and its impact on emotional development. Finally, many students questioned traditional gender roles they witnessed at home. They shared that these roles once shaped their expectations but now feel outdated or limiting. This mirrors the gender schema theory. Overall, student perspectives highlighted how deeply family dynamics influence our emotional habits and relationship expectations, but also how awareness and reflection can help break the unhealthy cycles.